I'm here, Eunjung answered. The old woman's gaze wavered toward the shadow that was her son, Myung-ho. He bent so fast the chair scraped. I'm here. A tiny sound, half sigh, half word, lifted and dissolved. In the dissolving, it promised to return. The machine went on. The snow went on. Inside the room, a story that had taken decades to write held its breath at the end of a paragraph, deciding whether to continue. The minutes stretched out like thin wire, almost invisible until you touched them and felt the sting. Eunjung rubbed her knuckles as if warmth could be coaxed into the marrow. Snow kept writing its white alphabet on the window. Do you remember, Eunjung said softly, eyes still on their mother, how she used to wake before dawn? That oil heater that never quite worked. She'd blow on her hands and say the day needed persuasion. Myung-ho made a sound that might have been a laugh if it were less tired. She used to put the pot on and talk to the water. Boil well. Don't waste your stinginess on the children. Her stinginess was for herself, Eunjung said, never for us. They let the memory sit down with them, a third sibling for the hour. Chol-soo shifted in his sleep and muttered something like, okay, as if the dream had asked him to apologize. Did you eat? Eunjung asked, because there are questions we use when we mean, are you surviving? Are you still my brother? I had coffee. He glanced at the IV line as if it were a piece of fishing line, guiding breath from some underwater place to a shore he couldn't see. I went by the first house earlier. The porch light is out. She nodded. I know. The bulb's from before summer. I meant to change it. She hesitated. I'll go tomorrow. Tomorrow, he echoed, and they both heard the fragile bravado in the word. His eyes kept circling the fountain pen on the side table. You brought that, he said. I don't know why. Eunjung touched it with one fingertip, then withdrew her hand as if the lacquer held heat. Maybe because it makes me believe she still has something to sign. He breathed out through his nose, a small concession to ache. She used it to pay the taxes that one winter I forgot. He lifted a shoulder. Not forgot, put off. I told myself I'd make it up next month, and then the notice came, with the little red stamp that makes you feel like a delinquent in your own life. She didn't even scold you, Eunjung said, only said, we are a family the city doesn't have to like us. And then she went to the ward office. She wore that brown coat, he said, the one that could have been any decade. He swallowed. I should have been the one to go. She did not answer. There are balances only love can keep without tallying. Their mother's eyelids fluttered again, then opened to a narrow gleam. The room leaned nearer without moving. Eunjung was first to speak, in the voice she had used, when she read to her mother on humid nights in August. Yeonma. It's me, Eunjung. And Myung-ho is here. The eyes searched, blurry with morphine and time. They seemed to skip across the room, like stones on water, and then sink when they found a face that would hold them. Her lips moved. The word that came was small but certain. A coin placed exactly on the counter. Together, she said. Eunjung nodded quickly, as if agreement could be used intravenously. Yes, we're together. Her mother's fingers twitched at the edge of the blanket. Eunjung folded her hand around them. The feel of the skin startled her, thin like paper, and yet, with a pulse that insisted on being counted. She remembered another hand, the same, hand gripping hers in a wet market when the power went out, and everyone became silhouettes. Don't move, her mother had said back then, voice calm in the dark. I will be the one to move. Now the old woman's gaze drifted toward her son. My. She stopped to catch a breath that wobbled. Youngest is sleeping, she said. And it wasn't a correction to anyone. It was a blessing that included what it named. Yes, Eunjung whispered. He's here too. Your father, the old woman said suddenly, as if the word had been waiting under her tongue for such a night. Never believed we'd have a second house. The hint of a smile found its way to the corner of her mouth. He didn't live long enough to worry about the third. Eunjung felt the familiar pang at the mention of their father. The way grief can be faithful, even after it fades. You did it, she said. You got us there. Not me. The old woman licked her lips, and Eunjung offered the sponge again. The three of you, 4, 6 each of you, building a brick I couldn't lift. Her eyes found Myung-ho again. You always trying to be the wall. He flinched, not from accusation, but from accuracy. I was trying to keep the rain off. Even the best wall, their mother said, her voice, a thinning thread, needs a door. She turned to Eunjung. You were the door, then to the ceiling, as if it, too, were her child. And the others, the light. Something in Eunjung unknotted. She had spent years being useful and not always seen. The word door felt like both recognition and a task she could still perform. Yeonma, she asked quietly, do you want to rest now? Soon, the older woman said, and the syllable felt as lightweight as a petal and as heavy as a signature. But the knight had another disclosure to make. The old woman's hands moved, patting the coverlet with a distracted purpose, searching for a shape the blanket could not provide. Eunjung understood. She reached for the fountain pen and set it in her mother's palm. The fingers closed, grateful. For a moment, her mother's hand made the old writing posture, 2 fingers and a thumb, the angle she had taught herself in a decade, when calligraphy was something you admired in a shop window and copied in your kitchen. No paper waited, but the hand did not notice it, remembered its own grammar. "What would you write?" Eunjung asked, half a whisper, half a wish. Myung-ho leaned in, his breath held as if oxygen were a scarce commodity. The answer arrived as a fragment of a list, the way mothers store instruction in their bones. "Boil anchovies," the old woman murmured. "Close the porch light. Pay water. Pay kindness." She paused, and her mouth made one more shape, slow and intentional. "Share." They stayed very still, as if motion might set the word down too quickly. Then the pen slipped, and Eunjung took it back, cradling it in her palm. She thought ridiculously of baptism. "Iomma," Myung-ho said, and the Iomma was a man's word now, full of too late, courage, and the tilt of apology. "I'll take care of the taxes. I'll do the heavy things." Her mother's eyes opened a measure wider. The iris, thin as a ring, caught the fluorescent glare and made it gentle. "Don't carry alone," she said. Strength, she paused, hunting for a stray word breaks when it is proud. She blinked, and with that blink another scene slipped into the room. Their kitchen. The year the water mains froze. Their mother had made do with buckets and jokes, insisting that hardship was just the universe's way of asking for better storytelling. "We'll remember this winter," she had said, "because it will not remember us if we don't give it a reason." The machine ticked on. A line on the monitor rose, held, fell. Eunjung found herself translating each dip as a verb. Waits, fights, forgives. The room collected verbs the way a shoreline collects shells, making a small museum of endurance. "You'll rest soon," Eunjung repeated. And this time, it was not a question. Her mother's gaze drifted toward the window. Snow had stacked itself neatly on the sill, obedient as folded towels. "So pretty," she said. The nurse came and went, leaving behind a small square of quiet. It was the hour when even the hospital seemed to reconsider its vocation. Eunjung watched her mother's breath and wished time came with a dimmer. Myung-ho shifted his weight and made the kind of face men make when they are trying not to become boys. "I was cruel sometimes," he said without looking at Eunjung. "Not with words you can quote. With absence." She could have argued she did not. "We will not do the inventory tonight," she said. "There will be time for accounting." "Maybe," he said. From the chair by the radiator, Cholsu startled awake. He looked around, caught between dreams and fluorescent fact. "She?" he began. "She's awake," Eunjung said, "and opinionated." She smiled at him, and a small wave of whatever keeps siblings from imploding passed between them and broke in gentle foam. Their mother moved her lips once more, knitting syllables carefully, like a woman trying to sew with an unfamiliar needle. "Don't." A breath. Hate. Another. Him. Eunjung felt the words in her wrist where her pulse counted them, then in her chest, where they insisted on lodging. She glanced at her brother, who had finally met his mother's eyes, without flinching from the mirror they offered. "I know," Eunjung said. "We won't." The old woman's mouth shaped another phrase, the air made room for it. All together, the pen on Eunjung's palm warmed, or she imagined it did. In the window, their reflections 3 figures, and a bed looked like a family portrait smudged by weather. The snow kept falling, neat and stubborn. The room exhaled. Somewhere the night turned, and everything it touched turned with it. Not forward exactly, but inward, toward the place where vows live until someone speaks them aloud.